Hi, my name is BelenMichel Torino, and in this video I'm going to show you an app that I have been developing on Swift for iOS. The app is called Workout. The idea of this app is that it will serve to change habits and improve our health by challenging us to exercise more frequently and keep fit. For the challenge part, users will be matched with other users and they will have to audit exercise done by other players in order to compete and win while changing their habits. This matching part and the leaderboard will be implemented in the future using GameKit framework. To understand more about this framework, you can watch my video that is linked on the details of this video. In this particular video, I will focus on first, the design of my app, the colors, the alignment, the constraints that I implemented to make it look good. Second, the use of an external API to collect the data that I will be displaying. Third, how to display your own images that you might have locally on your computer. And fourth and final, some automated tests. Okay, to begin. So I will show you the main storyboard. Here I have the exercise scene, where we will find a table view and you can see a prototype of how it will look one cell. And obviously the other cells will look the same. They will all display an image for the exercise, its name, and a description of the calories you could burn practicing it. You may see that the label and the exercise descriptions are on a stack view. This is to make sure that they are aligned and that I can set some constraints for them in tandem. I also have my activity indicator to let the users know when the content of the table is being fetched. We also have constraints that expands the edge of the safe area till the trailing top, leading, and till the bottom edge. Then we have the detail view scene. Here, each exercise will be displayed with more details. Thus, I created a scroll view in case that all the information don't fit on the screen at once. Again, we will have the same info as in the table of the previous view, but we will add the details of how frequent the user should perform this exercise to achieve their goals. Again, we have a stack view and also the constraints. In this case, you will see that there are some constraints that were set differently for the landscape and for the portrait mode, to make sure that it looks good on both orientations of our device. Let's go and take a look at the device. Okay, here is our app. You can see that it has a nice icon on our home. Here is the table that we just talked about. We can scroll down and choose any of the exercises or sports that we want to play. Let's say running. You will see that everything fits into this screen, so we don't need to scroll on this orientation. Also, one example of the different alignment that I use for the portrait and landscape mode are these margins that you can see here. And now let me show you what I mean. If we turn our device, in this case, we will need to scroll to read the details like this, and you will see that the margins that I set here are a little bit larger than on the previous screen. Okay, let me show you also how it looks on an iPad. Here, you will see that while the content of the table is changing, we have this little spinner working. And again, we have our table, our details view also, and it also looks nice on the landscape mode. Okay, the second thing that I want to show you is how I use an external API to collect the data that I am displaying. If we go to my exercise service class, you will see that I have this link to a service that I created with Moki.io, and I use this get exercise function to get the data from the JSON that I get from that link. To decode it, I use this JSON decoder, and also to wait until, like in the background, in case that I don't get data as fast as I would like to, I use this dispatch queue. If you're curious, we can check how this JSON that I receive looks like. Look, okay, you see that all of these are just strings, and we could have included them directly pasted on our exercise service class. However, this is a better practice since it's more dynamic and easier to change or update in the future. And here I can also show you the third point that I wanted to explain you. How do we include our own images or pictures? In this case, what I decided to do was to upload them to my Google Drive, like this. I had to make them public here and use this link and make some changes. You need to replace this file D part, you see, for this other part here. UC export equal view and ID equal. Okay, let's go back to the Xcode. I now want to show you how I implemented some automated tests. Let's click here, for example. This test is to check that our API is working and is returning a successful result. You'll notice that the methods always begin with the word text. Test. That's important because that's how the XC test framework in iOS recognizes that this is a test. Also, these two diamonds here, they are one of the ways in which you can run the test. You will see that if we run it and the test succeeds, they will turn green. Okay. But the test I wanted to show you is actually this one. This test is to make sure that the table is updating with our table view information. But it is a little bit tricky, and I want to highlight especially two workarounds that we had to implement. The first is that we had to create test doubles. Test doubles are objects that we use in place of the real object for the purpose of testing. This allows us to test what we want to test without relying in our API. What I mean is that if we would have used here our actual exercise service, then that I show you, then the API, if the API wouldn't work, then our test would fail, but not for the reasons that we wanted to test. So what we have done was to create a mock exercise service. And here we instantiated our mock exercise service with some examples of exercise. The second thing that I want to mention is that to make this test work, we need to make sure that we could trade out the real exercise service for our mock service. So what we did here was to separate the code that we had on our exercise list view controller to make sure that we can insert our code in between two different lifecycle methods. In this case, we use the viewDidLoad that precedes our test, and we injected our test before the viewWillAppear method that we wrote here. Going back to our test, you can see that there in line 51, after viewDidLoad and before viewWillAppear, we replaced the exercise service with our mock exercise service. Okay, let's see how it runs. Perfect! The test succeeded. Okay, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you like this first stage of my app as I do.